All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Fernando with Texas United Realty, and I'm one of the mentors here in the company. Today, we're going to focus on how to effectively communicate with co-op agents. That means other brokers. So, for example, if you're the buyer agent, you're going to communicate with the listing agent. They're commonly called co-op agents, cooperative agents. When making initial offers and counter offers and lease applications. And this is specifically the actual email itself. A lot of you guys are new mentees, or new agents. As far as you're concerned, you have to look at the contract and fill it in and get it signed. We're not specifically talking about that in this session. It's more how to submit an actual email. And some of us are, sometimes confused. We're not really sure. So we're going to focus on that. So sending an email for your initial offer. I'm going to show you some examples there. Sending an email for a counteroffer, which you normally get when you submit an initial offer. And then also sending an email for lease applications as well. Like that, you guys can become familiar with that as well. So, so one thing is we're going to jump right in on an initial offer. You guys are going to be probably using .loop or zip forms or transaction desk to fill out the contract itself, and get it. If you have a mentor, we'll look at it, ensure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. However, whenever you initiate the actual email sent to the listing agent, for example, you need to tell the listing agent, hey, we have a contract, here it is. Please let me know you received it. So this is just a very simple email. I have, and also keep in mind that, try to, in the subject line, I've noticed that a lot of us fail to use the subject line as what the content of our email is about. What's the objective, what's the topic. So make sure that your email has, at least the address and, what it's about, like contract offer, for example. That way, the recipient of that email knows what it's about, because a lot of us receive a lot of emails, and, we get spam mail and all sorts of mail. And then that way you can identify yourself as to the subject. And then here I wrote, attaches my client's contract offer for your listing at 123 Main Street. I always like to say, please confirm receipt of this email offer. The reason why I say that is because I want them to at least acknowledge that they got it. They don't have to say that they accepted the offer, hey, or any of that. Just, hey, I received your email. And sometimes they just respond back with the word received. Also, I like to ask them, let me know when you'll be providing a response. So here is like, hey, when am I going to hear about a response back? So this is important. Now, as far as the attachments that I put on this email, I put in the 1-to-4 contract, the third-party financing addendum. It's already signed by the buyer. The addendum right to terminate due to lender's appraisal. This is if you're using a conventional loan. The MUD, if it is in a MUD or water district. The HOA, if it's applicable, again. Of course, the seller's disclosure. Normally, the listing agent should have the seller's disclosure attached on the matrix MLS. Also, the MUD and the HOA should be there too. And then the LED, if applicable. So these are common documents that I like to send to initiate the initial offer. And you just attach them all. And .loop, you can download them. And zip forms, you can download them. And transaction desk, you can download them. Don't do piecemeal, where you're sending one email with one contract and another email with the third-party financing. That's a big mess. Try to send one email just for that initial contract. Okay. So very simple email. Attaches my client's contract offer for your listing. Please confirm receipt of this email offer. Let me know when you'll be providing a response. So that, and make sure you have your information too, because I've seen some emails that you guys have sent in the past where it may just have your name, you know, and and they don't know how to even get a hold of you sometimes. So anyway, I did something here. Anyway, so now there's, once you submit the offer, then you get another offer that says, hey, you know, we got your counter offer. They may say something like this in this example, or if you're the listing agent, you may send it back to the buyer agent and say, hey, if you don't mind, I usually have, again, I reiterate the title, you know, making sure that it's there, and it's a counter offer. I usually say, if you don't mind, I would like to communicate you via email, and then once we're in agreement, we can then fill up a new contract. Because keep in mind, the first contract you send has things, but they don't agree with that. You're going to have to wipe out those specific paragraphs and put in a new contract terms or conditions or price. So that's why it's better to start with a new contract. And then I usually say I have highlighted in bold the counter offer for my sellers. The items not bold, the sellers have agreed on. I also provided comments on the paperwork, because I sometimes notice that buyer agents or listing agents kind of have typos or erroneous information. And then I also will also need to provide a pre-approval letter. So here's a counter offer. They accepted it partially, but here I'm saying, okay, well, we want a sales price of $70,000. And we don't have a survey, as we mentioned in the MLS listing, because they were asking for a survey. But we agree on the other items: the FHA loan, 3.5% down payment, $70 for 1% earnest money, which is $70,000, 1%. We'll close at Alamo title, like it says. Seller pays for title insurance policy. So I have a real nice summary here of everything that we're agreeing upon. This is real helpful when you communicate with your clients, because your clients do not know how to read contracts. They didn't go to school like we did. They're not familiar with contracts. They only have one deal that they may work on. And us, we have multiple transactions. So we're used to our reading contracts. But I like to have these bullet items like this because it's very clear of what we're agreeing to, not agreeing to. So it's real helpful. Okay. And then I usually find errors when somebody sends me something. I'll say, hey, some corrections, the legal description needs to be this way. You forgot to check box, you know, this information 68A, you forgot to check box this. I also noticed in this particular deal that they included an addendum concerning right to terminate. When it was an FHA loan, I told them this addendum is only for conventional loans only. So sometimes I have to correct the agents, because sometimes we're dealing with new agents as well. And don't be surprised, sometimes they're not new, which is a little scary. But that's why you guys have mentors. And then I wrote third-party financing addendum. You know, you need to put the principal amount, not the sales price. Again, the training from within comes out, as you can tell. Seller's disclosure looks good. Septic tank, you need to do this other thing. And I'm looking forward and working on a smooth transaction. And so here's my counter offer, or back and forth. So this is real helpful, like that everyone knows what we're agreeing to, what changes need to happen. And it's very, very helpful, because I know you guys don't believe this, but one day you're going to have 5 or 6 transactions at the same time. And can you imagine you getting confused and mixing information from one transaction to another transaction? I know it's hard to believe, but it could happen. And then this summary will really help you out with what you said or didn't say or didn't agree to. And it's also helpful for your clients to understand it too. Okay. Now, there are times when you submit an offer, you know, let's just say you submit this initial offer. I hate when they did this. And then they respond. There are times where a buyer agent might send you this: a seller's invitation to a buyer to submit a new offer. and it'll have, you know, to Joe Buyer from Jane Seller, the address that we're talking about, and then they may say things like seller requires list price, seller requires 1% earnest money, seller requires 30-day closing, seller will offer no concessions, seller required. So it gives you a list of things that they want you to submit. You know, of course, everything's negotiable. You know, and you might even say, well, how about $100 for 7 days? I mean, that's why they use the word invited to submit another offer. And then it has the word favorably consider. Okay. So they're not saying you have to do it this way, but this is what the seller will like. And then the seller signs it. You don't sign it. The buyer doesn't sign it, just the seller. This is just an invitation to submit a new offer. So there's times that you might get this form, or you can just do, like I said, this email that I have here. Okay. So we're going to jump into lease applications, but I just wanted to pause for a little bit and see if anybody has any questions. Okay, no questions. All right. So now let's jump into lease applications. So a lot of you guys are working on leases, and I get questions like, well, how do I submit the lease, or how do I do it? Okay. So here's an email on a lease application. Again, I follow the same format of putting in the address and the subject line. I write, attaches a lease application, driver's license, paycheck stubs, and picture of their pet. I like to always do the picture of their pet. It's kind of, it makes me be different than the other realtors that are competing against for that same house rental for your listing. Please confirm receipt of this email. Again, I ask the same question, and then let me know how my clients can submit their lease application fee to you. Again, here I attach the lease application, driver's license, 1 month paycheck stubs, or income tax returns, or bank statements, depending on the situation of that tenant, and then picture of their pet. Very simple, you know, ready to go. And this is just, you know, something to do to submit. Now, there are some complications where, you know, there's some kind of issue that the tenant has that they've disclosed to you. And what I tend to do with that is I have another email format that you can use, where here again, same subject line, but I have like an option number 1 if there's a situation, a number 2 if there's a situation of this, I labeled it number 2, or 3. So of course you don't send all 3 of these. I'm just kind of giving you a verbiage. But here I said, attaches a lease application, driver's license, paycheck stubs, and picture of their pet for your listing. And then I may say, my client has a low credit score of 500 and the spouse is 513. Could you let me know if the landlord would accept them? Here, what you're trying to do is you're not going to show the house first, because the tenants already told you that they have these credit scores. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but credit scores for rentals, they're looking at 560 or 580. So as far as landlords are concerned. So whenever you have a 500 or, you know, less than 560, I would highly recommend you sending an email with the lease application and send it to the listing agent to see if they would even be accepted, because you don't want to waste your time. Okay. Or another situation that I had personally was my clients has two, or I should say have 2 80-pound dogs. And this is a true story. Could you let me know if the landlord would accept them? Well, wow, those are big dogs. I was able to help them out after all, but just letting you know, that's one. Another one that might you encounter, and I know this is a little bit, I know some of my students, they're kind of iffy about asking about criminal backgrounds. They feel like they shouldn't ask, but the more the tenants tell you, the better you can help them. So let's just assume that you are speaking to them about a criminal issue. They can say something like, I use an example here, they had a DWI in 2015, you know, so you can then ask the landlord, hey, would the landlord accept this, you know, this background? And the intent of this email is just, you don't want to waste your time, waste anybody's time, waste your client's time. So I always highly recommend sending them this. Now, one question that I always get asked is, will they charge me an application fee? Usually they don't, 99% of the time. You can always ask that or add it to your email communication. But that's why I write on here, I would like to check first with you before showing the house, you know, because you don't want to show the house and you know, and then they say, oh no, we don't accept 80-pound dogs. So that's pretty much it on my webinar. It's real short and sweet. Just wanted to show you examples of emails. Does anyone have any questions? Just make sure you unmute your phone or your device. Have you guys had any experience in this, especially sending lease applications when there's situations that they have in their background? Okay, it looks like nobody has any questions.
Oh, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And this is Mia, and I'm just wondering when, because I'm late, and so when this video will be on the webinar.
I usually post it at you know, either tonight or tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I hope this email, I hope these email examples were helpful, guys. I know it's a very simple topic, but sometimes I get questions like, I don't even know how to even submit an offer. And like, this is very basic, you know, just attaches my client's contract offer, please confirm receipt, let me know when you'll be providing a response. And then make sure you have all the attachments. Try not to do piecemeal, you know, where you're sending one email with just one thing and so on and so forth. Okay. All right.
Have one before we depart.
Okay, I can hear you barely.
I said I have one. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. I said I have one question. Well, the question is exactly, let's say you sent the email for the lease application, right?
Sure.
And then it takes them like maybe like longer than 2 days to respond to your email. What's an example of a follow-up email that you send?
Yeah, sure. So what I tend to do is I'll send an email first, you know, let's just say I send it today. And then I'll send them a text or give them a call the next day, all I'm asking is, did you receive it? That's all I'm asking, you know, because sometimes I've been hearing lately, emails have been going to spam folder and trash folder automatically. So they might have never gotten it. And then you don't want to lose out with another agent that submitted around the same time you did, and then they get, you know, their tenants to be up front of the line. So I tend to do that. Or what you can do is send an email. Whenever you send the email, just send them a text where you say, hey, I just sent you an email or something like that. That way all you want to know is if they received it. Okay. Good question.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions before we wrap it up?
Okay. One more question about the attachment. I saw the yeah, and I saw that. Not this one. I saw the HOA and the mod.
Oh yeah. So that's over here, the HOA. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that for me to do that or for the?
Yeah. So the MUD, HOA, seller's disclosure, and lead are typically on the MLS listing.
Okay, so we'll be listing, not the buyer.
Right. That you download, and it's already signed by the seller typically.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but there are times that listing agents don't do that, and then they make you do it,
Okay.
which is not nice.
Not fair.
Yeah, not fair. But like I tell my students, I tell them, hey, if the HOA they didn't fill it out, I usually tell my students, well, then put $150 transfer fee rather than sometimes they charge $250 transfer fee. And so I'll tell my students, well, then put 100, you can even put $1. No, I'm just kidding. You can put $150, So make it in the favor of your client, because it's shame on the listing agent that they didn't do their job.
For being
Okay.
lazy.
Right. So
Thank
shame
you.
on them. Shame on them.
It sounds dumb, but it does matter how you fill out your documents. We just got a house that the competition, there was 3 other offers against us. The other offer was $500 more, and the listing agent went with me because he liked the way I filled
Yep,
everything out with detail.
Yep.
Said the competing realtor filled everything out like a kindergartner. It
Yep.
makes a difference how you fill these things out. If you
Yep.
miss things
Yep.
and you send it one piece,
Yep.
they realize that they're going to have to be teaching you everything as you go, and they don't want to deal with that. So do your best before you send in the offer. Even if it takes a little longer, call them ahead of time.
Yep.
Tell them you're going to fill it out. Let them know it's coming.
Yep.
But don't half-ass it. I shouldn't say that, but
No, I know. Yeah. Well, that's very good.
because you're wasting your time, and you're going to lose out, and you're just going to be doing it again with another offer because you didn't get this one. So do it right the first time, and it can pay off. It might not always, but
Yep. No, I've heard that before. I've heard that comment statement, because some of my students, when they submit offers, the listing agent will give them a compliment. They'll literally will say, wow, your paperwork is so excellent, because all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. And you get that perception that it's going to be a smooth transaction. That's
Yeah.
the perception that you get, versus somebody that misses this, misses that, like kind of like you said, Karen, misses this other stuff,
Yep.
and then they're like, oh, we didn't mean to say that. Well, too bad.
Yeah, the listing realtor said he just didn't really feel like dealing with the other realtor.
Yep.
And the other offer was $500 more than ours, and he just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So,
And that $500 more, that could be the initial stage, right?
right, yeah, we were just on the accepted offer.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's 2 other phases. The
Yes.
other phase is the home inspection repair negotiation. And then there's the other appraisal that also you have to negotiate. So those $500 will get lost with the other phases of negotiation. So yeah, $500 to me is gonna disappear in another conversation as the transaction's moving forward. But
Yeah, and
very
getting
good.
to deal with somebody that knows their stuff is worth $500.
Yeah, right. No, that's very. Another thing that I learned too is you guys are going to be interacting a lot with realtors. I know all of us are very polite and nice, but I can give you an example that happened to me. I had worked with an agent and we worked very well together. And then later on, it was like 6 months, 8 months later, I submitted an offer. He was the listing agent, and he remembered me. And he literally told the seller, hey, I like this realtor. I've worked with him before. And the seller goes, really? He goes, because the seller goes, I don't want no penny pinchers, nickel and dimers. I just want straight, of course we're negotiating, but you know what I mean? Just a smooth transaction.
Yes.
And so he called me. He goes, hey, Fernando, the seller will like, if you can offer these 3 different, these 3 items, then you're gonna get the deal. So, and I got it, but he, again, kind of similar to you, Karen, where he's like, no, I'd rather work with this guy.
Right. Yeah.
And I ended up getting the deal, and my client was like, how did you do it? Because he knew there was like multiple offers.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, it became a very smooth transaction because the seller wasn't stressed, the buyer wasn't stressed, you know, it's just like, and everybody was happy. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good. It's good. This is good conversation.
You know, and it sounds dumb, but cutting your teeth on some of the smaller listings and going after the listings that these big realtors don't want is a good way for you to learn your proficiency of filling out your paperwork and getting things where you know what you're doing before you try to jump out after those expensive houses.
Yeah.
And doing leases is good practice to get there too. It does pay. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know,
And then
leases
those
pay.
leases become your pipeline to get real buyers afterwards. So.
Yeah, well, and I have a lease that I did 2 years ago that the
Yep.
landlord called me today and
Mhm.
said, hey, she wants a copy of her lease.
Yep.
And I said, sure. And he doesn't know why she wants a copy. So
Yeah.
I called her, kind of looking out for him, called her
Yeah.
and said, hey, you know, he said you want to get a copy of your lease. And the reason I called was to make sure your email address hadn't changed,
Right.
and just kind of casually filled out why she wanted to get it. And then I sent him an email going, okay, you know, she's trying to get her credit and everything straight, and she wants to buy a house.
Yep.
But guess what? I get to be the one who's going to help her buy that house.
Yep.
Because oh my gosh, oh, I'm so glad you called me. You
Yeah.
know, I lost your number. I'm on my third phone since then, and yay, you know. So when she's ready to buy that house, she's contacted, you know, I've contacted her several different times. I'm the one, she calls me about, you know, her air conditioner's out. And of course I tell her she has to call the landlord.
Right.
But when you stay in contact with somebody who you did a lease with, it can turn into a buy later.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. That was very good feedback.
So
Okay.
I do have one more question, Fernando.
Yes, sir.
The question is, so I use a MacBook, and you know, sometimes I know it can be unfriendly with some of the systems that we use. And so, like, my question is, what do you do when you're trying to send a file, but you have one particular document that it's like too large to send with the other files?
So your MacBook doesn't allow you to manage files?
Well, so like some files, like
Uh-huh.
let's say if I have a client, they send me, you know, their file with their, you know, the
Right,
driver
right.
license, social, yeah. And so sometimes, depending on, I guess, you know, the image sizing,
Yes.
it would say file is too large, you
Oh,
know,
I
and
got
so
you.
I have to send it in a different email.
Oh, I see.
I use MacBook.
Yeah, go ahead.
I use Mac. That's all we have is Macs.
Hmm.
Yeah, so can you compress the file? Oh no, but you said it's an email that has the file and you can't open it sometimes?
Like one way, I mean, I have them do it, but you know, sometimes like all clients are not sometimes willing to do it.
Right,
Like if they download like a cam scanner,
right,
and you know they can take a picture of it and they can send me the whole file, you
right,
know, in one email. But like let's say if they take a picture like of their driver license or something with their phone
right,
and check stub and whatever, and they send it to me all in one email. But when I try to download it into
right,
Loop
right.
and for it to be all in one file and send it to the listing agent, it sometimes tell me that the file is too large to send.
Right, right, because there's a limit. I think, like for example, Yahoo uses 25 megs capacity, and then I think .loop is 15. There is a limit of .loop as far as the size. I mean, there is a small PDF.com utility that you can run. It's free, and that will compress the file.
And it's called small PDF.
Yeah, smallpdf.com.
Okay.
And what I had personally is I bought myself a license for Acrobat Reader. I think I paid $15 a month, and for 2 licenses, and because I have 2 computers here at home, and
Okay.
and so I use my my PDF editor to do compression of files as well. And plus it allows me to edit the file, edit the PDF file as well. So anyway, but yeah, use smallpdf.com and that should help you with compression.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. That was a technical question, but I used to work in software support, so I'm familiar with a little bit of that computer technology. All right, guys. Well, it was a pleasure, and I'll be posting this on the webinar links. Appreciate everybody's time, and y'all have a nice night.
Where do we go to find those webinar links? Because I missed